All right, for the second example of proofs involving trigonometry here, we're going to have one that involves Pythagorean substitution. We talked about that the other day, that this is there's a set of 3 Pythagorean identities that we're going to use to solve this. Now, we see here that it's cosine squared on the top. We are going to replace that once we choose that side. I guess I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. We're going to choose this side to start with. I like this side just because it's a little more complicated and I can work towards a little bit more simple. Now, if we go over here, we have the Pythagorean identity that's going to come into play for this one because we have cosine squared. So remember that we need to make it look like this, and we can rearrange this identity. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to subtract the 1 over onto this side just because there's this minus 1 here. So that way I'll have a new version that is sine squared plus cosine squared minus 1 equals 0. And then I just want the cosine squared x minus 1 here, so I'm going to take this sine squared and subtract it over to the other side so that we can get it to look the way we want. So we've got cosine squared minus 1 equals then negative sine squared. So now that I have that, you'll notice that we have cosine squared x minus 1. We've got the same thing right here. And so I'm going to start by replacing this with negative sine squared. That's going to be my first step. So negative sine squared x over cosine. Now we're actually almost there. There's only 1 or 2 more steps in this one. And one of those steps is to notice that we wanted to get it to negative tangent times sine. Well, we already have sines in there. We have a cosine. There's a negative. There's a lot of stuff that we can use. So here's what we're going to have to do on this step is I'd like to split the sine up into its 2 parts, which are sine of x and sine of x. Now that's all over cosine, but I can really kind of choose where the cosine goes, so I'm just going to put it right here underneath the first one. Now that being the case, sine over cosine, we can go backwards and replace that with tangent, leaving the negative out in front. We get tangent, and then the sine is still there, and that's where we're done because this is now then the right-hand side of this example.